Well, today was report day. Some calling it a data dump as USDA releases the August crop production survey and WSDA report. USDA's Farm Service Agency also releases its first estimate of prevented planting for 2019. In this special edition of Trading Bits and Bytes, we review those numbers and gather the reactions afterward. Jeff Peterson with Heartland Farm Partners is here to break things down. Jeff, thanks for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. It definitely was a big day.
It was a big day indeed. Let's start with the acres, as there were surprises for both corn and soybeans. What did we see there?
Yeah, and overall going in the report, and anytime we have a report like this, Bryce, it's all about expectations. And the trade was expecting to see corn acres come down, and they didn't disappoint there. Unfortunately, they just didn't come down enough. We ended up coming at 90.7 million acres, or 90 million acres on the corn side. The trade was expecting something closer to about 88. And a lot of people are saying, well, what happened there? And I think what we're picking up is that as we dig into the FSA numbers, and then we also look at what they did on their resurvey, what we'd find is the resurvey data and the WSDA data look very, very similar. And so we're questioning a little bit how much of the FSA data actually went ahead and got factored into the numbers. Over on the bean side, it was just the opposite. The trade was actually looking for the bean numbers to come up slightly, and actually we saw a drop. 76.7 million acres versus an 80.84 on the expectation side from the trade. So we ended up seeing what we kind of thought earlier might happen, more corn acres, less bean acres because of profitability, but it definitely set the market back on its heels.
Talk a little bit more about the prevented planting and how that was factored into the acres report and what folks were expecting, what we saw there.
And as we've taken a look at the FSA data, and what we have to realize, the FSA data is all about progression, right? We got numbers here in August. We'll get more numbers in September. We'll get more numbers out there in October. And normally what WSDA would say is that they don't use a lot of the FSA data in the August report, but this year's they said they were going to look at it. As we took a quick look at the numbers, they did report from FSA on the certified acre side over 11 million acres of corn on prevent plant. What we're having a hard time, and this is what we're going to have to dig into more, Bryce, is that we're going to have to figure out and say, okay, what does that mean? So if we're showing planted acres of 90 and we put 11 million acres on top of that, are we over 100 million intended on corn? We don't think that's right, so we're going to have to dig into that a little more. Over on the bean side, there was a little over 4 million acres on the prevent plant side, so definitely the FSA data did pick up the prevent plant acres. It's just the big question is, how did WSDA come up with these numbers that they did? So we're going to keep digging into that and get you more information down the road.
We mentioned the acreage side of it. What about the yield? What did USDA do there?
There was another big surprise there. But the question on the surprise there probably wasn't as big as what we may have thought. And let me rephrase that, is that the numbers that we actually have coming out of the August report aren't merely an adjustment of the July. And that's what a lot of times we think. And so what everybody was anticipating is we're anticipating seeing the corn number come down from the 166. Actually, the trade was thinking 165, and what do they come out with? 169.5. Now, we're a little bit nervous about this one, mainly because this report, it didn't have the objective yield data. So what were they looking at? Well, they're looking at stuff we don't normally see in this report. They always talk about what's going on the farmer survey in the August report. They did incorporate some satellite data, but what we're questioning and we think can happen is down the road, we think we'll see some lower yields that will come in over on the corn side. Bean side, the adjustment wasn't as big, but it still was a surprise that they brought the yield up. We think as they actually get out there, because of the lateness of planting, because of the lesser amount of nodes that we're finding, we think we're actually going to end up seeing that yield number come down as we go down the road also.
Sometimes there's questions whether it was a bull or bear report. No question here is corn, as we record this, about an hour after the report, down 25. Livestock on the live and feeder cattle also limit down. Not a pretty sight on the commodities.
No, it's not, but let's kind of dig in and talk about that a little bit. So what does a report, how does the market have to respond when we get these type of numbers? Well, initially what you have is that coming into this report, the speculative traders, they were long about 90,000 contracts of corn. We're seeing some individuals back out. But what we believe is that you have to get an adjustment in price. We're down limit. If we stay down limit all the way through trade today, that will say we need to carry through into tomorrow because we haven't quite got all the adjustment in. Our belief, though, is that once we find the price, the bottom after this report, I think we then can start working our way gradually back up higher. We're not of the opinion that we're just going to go ahead and tank this market from here, because as we get down into these areas, we're getting down below fair value on the corn. Beans are a little bit more of a question mark depending on the Chinese trade.
You and I are just scratching the surface of the data dump that we have to go through today. What are you looking for in the coming days within all these numbers that we're talking about?
Yeah, going forward, there's going to be a lot of scrutiny put on the acres. There's going to be additional talk on the yield side, but that's going to take some time to unfold because this crop is further behind than what we normally have, and even more so on the bean side. So I guess we're gradually looking for this market to work its way higher as we go down the road here.
Jeff, we appreciate the information. Jeff Peterson of Heartland Farm Partners has been our guest. This is Trading Bits and Bytes. I'm Bryce Duskin.